I just woke up from such a good nap. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Liz and today we are going to be doing a video where basically I walk you through what my reading tracking organization looks like. I want to show you what I do each month whenever I'm reading whatever books I decide to read that month, like where I keep them, how I organize them, and keep track of the books I read each month for my monthly wrap-ups. And I also want to share my reading journal because I haven't really said much about my reading journal. I think there might have been like one video earlier this year where I was like getting stuff organized for the year, organizing and getting my reading journal like formatted. I don't know. I know I mentioned and definitely showed some pages in my reading journal, but it's been 7 months now into the year and I have not shared a single thing about it since. Not that anybody cares. I don't think anybody truly cares about how I organize my reading, but I do find it really interesting myself, like when I see other people's reading journals and I see how other people organize their books and their reading and like how they keep track. Because if you're like me and you collect a lot of books, it can get a little overwhelming and a little chaotic. That is definitely the case in my room, but I like to think it's like an organized chaos. I'm gonna run you guys through how I track my reading and also my reading journal, giving you a little tour of that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. First thing I want to talk about is just what happens whenever I start a new book. I have a spot on my dresser where my TV sits. This is basically where I keep all the books that I read during that month. In this clip here, you can see I have all the books that I've read so far this month. I like to keep them here separate so that way at the end of the month I can just grab that stack and then I have them ready for my wrap-up videos. Some other things happening on my dresser is I have some other book stacks just kind of sitting everywhere. Those are mainly books for like book clubs or for work. If I have specific books that I need to keep track of and like get to at some point during that month, I keep them sitting there so that way they're in my face. Otherwise I could very easily forget them if they're on my cart. Obviously, like my TBR cart, I've shown you guys that before and how I organize that, but the top shelf on my TBR cart is like my seasonal TBR, so those are the books I want to read whatever season we're in. I like to keep them front and center so it's very easy to see what books I still have not gotten to that season. And then obviously I have my ARC shelf, which also has a lot going on. This is not ideal, but here we are. I bought this bookshelf like a couple months ago, maybe not even a couple months ago, and it's completely full. I know I need a different solution. Hopefully we will get that different solution sometime soon. At the moment, any ARCs that are like priority for me that I definitely want to get to sometime soon are sitting on top of the shelf, so that way they're face out and it's a little bit more easy for me to see them. Obviously, I would rather them be on the shelf, but this shelf is not very big, so that was not able to happen, unfortunately. I would love to get another bookshelf so that way this can just be for ARCs, because right now I have two shelves that are more TBR books, but they're like further out in the year. My fall or winter TBRs, which honestly I need to probably switch this soon and put like spring, like whatever books I think I'll read next spring on there, because fall's coming soon. Why am I saying it's coming soon? We're literally halfway, not even halfway through the summer. I want it to be fall so bad, guys. I hate sweating. I hate being hot. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on in my room. Anytime I finish a book, I track it on Goodreads. I do use the Goodreads app. Don't love how it's formatted. Wish I could do like half-star ratings at least. Doesn't even let you do that. But I at least use it to keep track of when I start and when I finish a book. And this also keeps track of my 2025 reading goal, so I can see all the books that I've read this year on there very clearly. So I do like that about the app, and that's literally all I use it for. I'm not very active on the app, I wouldn't say. I only just started using Goodreads this year. Also, can we just talk about this update they decided to give us? Obviously, we all wanted a different letter G. We wanted a different app look. That's all we wanted. We don't need the whole interface to be updated. No, why mess with something that's not broken? Like, pfft. Come on, we all wanted this. Moving on, let's go ahead and chat about my reading journal. This is what's very exciting. In past years, I have had reading journals where I have like actually gotten a blank journal, completely formatted all of the spreads myself, put a lot of work and effort into them. But the beginning of this year, I definitely wanted to go into the year with less expectations on myself. I wanted to give myself more time to do other things than just keeping track of my reading. It started to feel more like a chore by the end of last year. Whenever where I was trying to keep up with that reading journal. So I'm glad that I now have a better option, and that is a already formatted reading journal from Illumicrate. I got this in a box one month and I absolutely love it. It has all the spreads that I need. There's definitely other spreads that I've thought about that they could include that I would have also enjoyed, but I feel like they have majority of the things that are necessary for my reading especially. I definitely wanted to have like a simpler reading journal this year. Right whenever you open it, I do have this little slip of paper. This is a list of all of the books on my physical TBR from the start of 2025. So at the very beginning of the year. I've done this in past years and I always love doing this. I like to write out every single book on my physical TBR just so that way I can keep track of what books I've had for a while and what books need to be put more forward so that way I actually get to them at some point, because I hate having books on my TBR for more than 2 years. If it's been more than 2 years since I bought it, the chances of me actually reading it are very slim just because I'm not motivated anymore. This is very helpful for me at least. I also get to check off whenever I read the book and that's really satisfying. And then when you flip to the first few pages, it's actually this little bookshelf diagram, which I absolutely love. There's a whole nother page of this. I don't personally need that because I don't read that many books in a year. I wish I did, but this is where I'm at the moment. So I probably will bleed over onto this bookshelf before the end of the year because I think I'm gonna run out of space on this one. The way I do it is I assign a color to every month, and that's the color I use for like writing out the book, writing out my readings, and then also whenever I track them on the bookshelf. Right now we're in the month of July, and so this dark blue color is all the books that I've read this month. So those are the ones that are all colored in. I made one of these last year in my reading journal and I loved it. It was just like one of the highlights of finishing a book. I get to add the book onto this bookshelf. Just so you guys know, nothing I'm talking about is new and groundbreaking information. My whole system is very low maintenance and literally anybody could do this, and I'm sure people have better systems. This is just what works in my brain. Next page is book of the month. I'm pretty sure that they meant for this page, this spread, to be for the books that they send in their monthly boxes. I'm using it as whatever my top book was for that month. So any 5-star reads or any books that or just my favorite book of that month, I've been just writing them in here, and then I'm gonna go in before the end of the year and I'm gonna print out each of the covers of the books and tape them in here so that way I can see all of my top books of the year. Right now I'm a little bit behind because I should be on this one and I haven't filled out May or June's yet, but I can easily go back and figure out which book that is. I'm just not on top of things at the moment. And then the next page is a spot where you can record your reading goals. I made my reading goals very simple this year. It's literally just read 100 books. That's it. I've tried to do in years past more complicated reading goals, and I do want to push myself as a reader, but I feel like this year I just need a breather. I need to just have fun with my reading and just enjoy what I'm doing. Also, they have an Illumicrate reading challenge here. I need to fill this out because these aren't books that they've necessarily sent me in my monthly boxes, but there are like a handful on here that I have actually read in past years, almost like doing like a bookish bingo. At the beginning of every single month, there is this page that just has like a graphic from a fantasy book, and then it has your monthly TBR. So you can fill in whatever month it is up at the top and then just write down the title and the author. This I kind of do a little weird. I have seasonal TBRs. I don't do monthly TBRs. The first month of a new season, I will write a very long TBR list and it'll be like all my seasonal TBR for that first month. And then whenever I get to the next month, I will write the same books, but minus the ones I've read. This should get shorter and shorter as the season goes on, hopefully, if I'm actually keeping on top of my seasonal TBR. And that's really satisfying for me because then it motivates me to read more of the books that are on that list. Moving on to the next page, we have a reading log. This is where I can track the dates it took me to read a specific book, title and author, pages, format, and then my ratings. I love that they give a ton of space for your books. Not that I read this many in a month, but it's nice having that option. I never have to worry about running out of space, thankfully. And then I have 2 pages dedicated to a reading tracker and then my monthly book haul. Reading tracker, I thought about using this whenever I was tracking for like a week, how many pages I read in a week. I forgot, but I do think that this would be helpful if you like to keep track of how much you read every single day. It gives you the entire month and you can write whatever number you get to. Not that you have to read every day, but it's nice to kind of see that, like see whenever you were maybe in a bookish slump or maybe when you were really busy. And then monthly book haul, I have not filled out at all, mainly because I don't like to expose myself like that. I don't need to know how many books I buy every month. I try to cut back. I do. You know, some months the books call to me. There's lots of new releases. It's not my fault. It's the publisher's fault, okay? And the author's fault. They need to stop writing such good books that I want to read. And then there's a few pages of this same spread where it's your monthly reviews, so I can write whatever the book title is. I print out the book covers because I just like seeing them, and then it shows if it was on your TBR list, what genre, your rating, and then the date you finished it. And it gives you a little space if you wanted to write a few words. I haven't been writing any reviews in here just because I feel like there's not enough space. And then the last spread for each month is the monthly wrap up, which I get so much joy out of this. This is actually so incredibly helpful. On this side, you have your top genre, how many pages you read, average pages per day, total books you read, how many were physical, audio, digital, how many books out of your physical TBR you were able to get to, if you started any series, completed or continued any series, and then you can put whatever your top book was of the month, also whatever 5-star reads you had. And then you can also break down how many of each genre you actually read that month. I definitely use this every single month. I love looking and reflecting on what my reading month looked like. And at the end of the year, whenever I calculate all my reading stats, I can refer back to all of the monthly wrap-ups in this journal. And then, like I said, it moves back and it basically repeats. So every single month looks the same, has the same spreads, which very simple and to the point. Some of the pages I use, some of them I don't use. At the end of it, which I'm really excited to do towards the end of the year, it has a spot to do best book tournament. So it has like a little bracket where you can fill in all your top books of each month and figure out what your top book of the year was. This I'm really excited to do. I've seen people do this in their reading journals and I've always wanted to do this myself. So I love that there is a spread for this, and I'm really curious to see what book will end up being my top book, because there's a lot that are going to be up there and it's gonna be hard to choose. And then one other spread that I think is really cool is the yearly wrap-up spread. So it has just a ton of different stats that you can write down. So total books read, total pages, reading goals completed, and there's some like interesting ones, like different ones that I never would have thought to keep track of. Longest book read, shortest book read, most pages read in one day, most books read in one day, number of books unfinished, stuff like that. I think that'll be really fun to fill out whenever we're hitting the end of December. And then also there's a book series tracker, so I can track any series that I'm currently in the middle of. This will be really helpful for me for next year whenever I'm getting my next reading journal set up. I kind of want to have a spread where it is a series tracker and I can show all the series that I'm in the middle of, so that way I make sure I make a point of finishing them, because that, if you've seen any of my recent videos, you know I struggle with that big time. And that is everything in my reading journal. I love it. Personally, this has been so helpful for me every month. I feel like it's very manageable. I don't feel like I'm doing too much and it doesn't feel like a chore. I actually get excited whenever I can fill out my monthly wrap up. That's pretty much it. It's nothing crazy, nothing super unique, but I thought it'd be fun just to share what this looks like for me, at least, because I know everyone does it differently. Some people don't track it at all, which is like, okay, great for you. My brain needs something like this. And that's gonna be it for today's video. I know this was kind of like a short and sweet video, but I thought this would be fun, just getting to share some of more in-depth details of my reading and how I track everything. I think maybe next year I will try to do maybe something a little bit more challenging, a little bit more complex, but for this year, this is perfect. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this gave you some ideas. Maybe you're like, wow, I want to track my reading like that, Liz. Like, you are a genius. Feel free to steal my ideas. I can make that sacrifice. You steal my ideas, I won't hold it against you. I find it flattering. I feel like I'm still half asleep. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.